Retro video game prices are constantly changing, and ever since we saw the big boom of 2020, retro game collectors and anyone involved in buying or selling video games is somewhat hyper aware that all it takes is a little piece of information, a small announcement from a video game company or a manufacturer to cause a video game or a group of video games or perhaps an entire library to either skyrocket in value or plummet in value. We hear about a company that decides to reprint a certain number of games that we once thought were limited, and now all of a sudden the price of those games or the value of all copies have dropped by 30%. Or we hear that a company is no longer going to produce physical games, and then all of a sudden the value of all of those games tends to skyrocket. And so we're in a very weird position right now with retro video games where the prices of retro games are shifting again. And I think some consoles and some video game libraries are shifting a lot more than others. And in between all of this, you have GameStop, which is a company that obviously has decided to dabble a lot more heavily into retro video games. And I'm not sure if they use price charting or what their metric is for pricing their games, but what I've seen and what many of you have probably seen is that GameStop is constantly and desperately trying to keep up with the changes in retro game prices, because if they price a game too high that most collectors know that they can get for significantly cheaper on eBay, those games are going to sit on their shelves and it's not really going to do them any real justice. On top of that, if they have the game priced too high, it could mean that they're probably paying out more for those games than they really want to. And so when it comes to games that they have priced too high, they obviously want to right size those prices. But on the flip side of that, and probably more importantly, if they have games that are priced too low, they're constantly trying to make sure that those games are priced up to the current market rate. And a really good example of that is one that I shared previously on the channel, which is Ninja Shadow for the original Game Boy. I remember back a couple months ago, I was able to pick up a copy of Ninja Shadow, I want to say for like $39.99 or $39.99. Well, about a month later, that game went up to $49.99, then it jumped to $59.99, and the last time I saw Ninja Shadow on GameStop's website, it was going for $74.99. And so that tells me that GameStop is actively trying to make sure that they keep up with the price of retro games. And as prices shift, they're going to make sure that they're kind of somewhat in line. And they're usually going to try and stay within, I want to say, $5 to $10 of whatever the going rate is, whether it be price charting or what the game is averaging for on eBay. And in this video, what I want to do is I want to show you a handful of games that are probably priced closer to the market value that you can get from their stores. They're probably only underpriced by maybe $5 to $10. But on the back end of that, I want to show you another handful of games that GameStop still has severely underpriced. They just have not caught up to the fact that the pricing for these games have gone up. And I'm making this video now so that if you are on the hunt for these games, you can buy them as soon as possible, because my estimation is that the prices for these games will go up pretty quickly. But let's start with the ones that they have priced closer to market value. The first one is going to be The Simpsons. This is one that I picked up recently. They have this one, I think, available for $59.99. And The Simpsons game is roughly like a $60 to $70 game on the Xbox 360. So not too much of a huge price difference there. I guess the good thing is that if you are able to find a copy at GameStop and you are a pro member, obviously you get your 5% off. You do get that 7-day warranty that you can return it if it's not working. And then while they still last, you can also get the points, although I highly suggest if you have points, you use them before the month is over. But you can get some extra benefits by buying it from GameStop. If it's priced the same on eBay, there's a little bit more advantage there. So you do have the Simpsons game. Then you got Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, which honestly has not been the same since the release, since it was released on the Switch. And we've seen that happen with a few GameCube games that were pretty expensive on the GameCube, but then they got a Nintendo Switch release, and then all of a sudden the game just isn't as valuable anymore on the GameCube. And so I think the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is definitely one of those games that kind of fell into that bucket. Nevertheless, it's still priced pretty fairly, I would say, and it's one that if you can find it complete, I would pick up. I already had a copy, but my copy was not complete and it didn't have all the inserts, but this copy is in really good shape and it had the manual and all the inserts. So I went ahead and snagged this copy. And kind of similar story here with Metroid Prime, right? Metroid Prime is like a $25 to $30 game. GameStop typically has it priced at $27.99. With your pro member discount, you're probably going to get it for somewhere around 26 bucks or so. And so I would say the same thing here. If you can find a complete copy with all the inserts and everything, and you know the manual's in good shape, it might be worth picking up if you don't already have it in your collection. Why? Because GameStop isn't overcharging you for this game. It's pretty much market value. You get all the benefits, the points, the warranty, the 7-day return policy. You can take advantage of all of that. And if you can find a clean copy, then it's worth it, right? Then you have a couple of others that I wanted to share with you here. A couple of handhelds that I recently picked up. One in Metroid 2. GameStop typically has this for around $34. Obviously, you get your 5% if you're a pro member. And then they have Wario Twisted, which I think they have for $74.99. If you're a pro member, it comes in at around $71. Both of these games are priced pretty close to their market value. I'm going to say Wario Twisted is between $75 and $80 on the secondary market. Metroid is typically going to be somewhere between $30 and $35 as well. Again, when you can find clean copies, I say go ahead and grab them because it just makes sense. I got another one. This one's a little bit more modern. Terminator 2D No Fate. Even though this is a very recent release, I don't typically see copies of this game on shelves at GameStop. I don't even see them used. And this one is kind of one of those Switch releases that wasn't like a limited run release or anything like that. But I think because of the nostalgia factor, the popularity, the hype around it when it first released, this is one of those ones that doesn't typically sit on the shelf. I think if a used copy of this pops up, it'll typically go. And GameStop has this one, I believe, at $54.99, which again, if you go on eBay, this game is really retaining its value, even on eBay. It's not a cheap game. It's not an expensive game. It's just one that's pretty much priced accurately that they have there. And I'm sure if you dig and wait and are patient long enough, maybe you could get it for 25 or 30 bucks. But if it's something that you want to just play right away and it's right in front of you and it's in great shape, you're probably going to grab it. That's what I did because I really wanted to play it. And my quick thoughts on this game is that outside of all of the nostalgia, this game is a very watered down version of Hunt Down. I don't know if you've ever played Hunt Down. I've talked about Hunt Down on my channel before, but if you've never heard of Hunt Down, go look that game up. Hunt Down is what Terminator 2D No Fate is supposed to be from a gameplay perspective. Just Terminator 2D No Fate has all the nostalgia. And I think that's the biggest thing this game has going for it. Outside of that, there's at least 10 other run and gun shooter games on the Nintendo Switch that I think are probably way more fun than this game. You let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. Moving forward, we have Streets of Rage 2, the not for resale version. This is a $25 pickup at GameStop. Pretty much what it goes for on eBay. The last time I checked, there was one that was going for auction, and I think it had been bid up to around like $23 or so, and it had a couple days left. So I don't know if it's going to end up selling for more than that if someone's willing to bid up a loose cart of Streets of Rage 2 up to $30 or so. But again, market rate, the label's in good enough shape, and so I went ahead and grabbed it for the collection because I sold a lot of my physical Sega Genesis games. So I'm really trying to rebuild that side of my library. And then last but not least, this one's a little bit tricky, and you're going to see this at GameStop, but we have Swamp Thing on the original Game Boy. Now, Swamp Thing on the original Game Boy ranges anywhere between like $60 and $80. If you look on eBay solds, you'll see copies of this game that have sold for as low as like in the 30s and even 40s. The difference is, though, when I picked this up from GameStop, this actually came with its manual. Now, most listings that I see for this game with its manual land somewhere around $110, $120, because complete in box, I think this game is like $400 or $500, right? It's a cool little side-scrolling like action, adventure style game. Pretty cool game on the Game Boy, not one that you see very often. And I actually ran into this at a GameStop where someone was actually trading it in. So someone that just traded it in, I walked in at the right time, and really it was the manual that made me decide to go ahead and grab this one. GameStop is going to typically have this for around $69 with your pro member discount and stuff like that. It's probably going to land somewhere around $65, which again is pretty much market rate for the game, right? It's not like a tremendous discount. You're not getting any steals, but if it makes sense, if the game is in decent enough shape, the label is still in pretty good shape. There is some discoloration on the cartridge that is there, but I think the compensating factor here is that it did come with the manual, and so that's why I went ahead and grabbed it. All right, moving quickly, let's just talk about 3 or 4 games that GameStop still has underpriced pretty severely, and games that I would definitely look out for if you were in a store. And we're gonna run through these. The first one is gonna be Mobile Suit Gundam Never Ending Tomorrow. They typically have this one for 25 bucks. I think this is a 45 to 50-ish dollar game, and the aftermarket, it's, especially if you can find it complete. I was able to find a complete copy in really great shape. This is one that if I saw at a GameStop, I would grab it. There are a lot of PlayStation 2 sleepers that GameStop just has not caught up to yet, and they still have underpriced. This is one of them. Another PlayStation 2 sleeper, if you find there, you definitely want to grab it. It's Vampire Knight. This is a $50 game. Now, I will say that this is a light gun game, so you will need like a light gun, and you will need a TV that allows you to use the PlayStation 1 light gun, because this is a light gun shooter. However, this is still a $50 game. And it's one, especially if you can find it complete, if you can get your hands on it, it's one that I would go ahead and grab, especially if you're trying to build out a PlayStation 2 collection or anything like that. This one is underpriced if you do happen to see it, especially if it's complete. It's definitely one that I would go ahead and take advantage of. F-Zero GX. Now, this one is not drastically, they don't have this one underpriced drastically. I think most GameStops are going to have this game at around $55, and then you can take off 5% for pro members and stuff. But this is around a $75 game in the aftermarket. So again, if you can find it complete, if you notice, I keep saying the same thing. If you can find it at a GameStop complete, go for it, right? In my opinion, I would say go for it. It's still underpriced by $20. It's definitely worth it if you're building a GameCube collection and you don't have one, or don't have a copy that's complete. I would say go ahead and grab it because it is priced underpriced by 20 bucks. It's not a huge difference, but again, complete. If you can find these games complete, that's where they make sense. Any of these games that are, if you find any of these games in a disc-only condition, I would not go ahead and get that. Now we're gonna go to the last two that I think have the biggest, like GameStop really is probably gonna increase the prices on these two very soon. The first one is The Godfather, the Don's Edition. This is one that I picked up online. I took a chance on it, and luckily it did come complete. I was really glad to get this complete. It has the case, the manual, the game, everything is in good condition. GameStop, as of the recording of this video, still has The Godfather, the Don's Edition on the PlayStation 3 going for $59.99. Right now, ever since the PlayStation's announcement of, closing certain stores and getting rid of physical by 2028, PlayStation 3 games have skyrocketed. And I'm going to do a separate video on that because I've picked up a lot of PlayStation 3 games during GameStop's under 20 for 40, because there are a lot of PlayStation 3 games that fall in that $15 to $19.99 range at GameStop. And I think if you were going to build your PlayStation 3 collection, I would say do it now when you can get a lot of those decent games for 10 bucks, because I do see games that are currently in the $15 range slowly creeping up to $30, maybe $40, depending on how good they are. But The Godfather, the Don's Edition, they have it listed there for $59.99. In the aftermarket, this game is steadily rising, and I think one of the last listings I saw, this game was at $130. The Godfather, the Don's Edition is going to continue to rise in value, in my opinion, even if it's a short-term bubble in the PS3 market. This is one that they still have underpriced by a lot. So if you can find it, especially complete, this is definitely one that I would keep my eye out for, and if you can grab it, go ahead and grab it. The last one is the one that I think most people have already caught up to, and most people know about this one already, and that's Star Fox Assault. I recently picked up another copy of Star Fox Assault. So I had picked up a copy of Star Fox Assault earlier in the year, but I think that copy was a player's choice version. So this was the black label version. And for a while, price charting had the black label, the player's choice version at about half the inflated price of the black label version. I think the player's choice was going for between 50 and 60, and the black label was somewhere around 110, 120. Well, things have changed, and now the player's choice version, I think, lands somewhere between 80 and 90, and the black label version has come down a bit. So I think the black label version goes for roughly around 100 on eBay. I don't know how long that price is gonna stay there. It could be all the hype from the new Star Fox game that released on the Switch 2. I don't know how much longer the hype is going to be there to sustain the current asking prices of $100 for this game. But all that being said, GameStop having this game for $29.99 means you're getting basically the game at 30% of its value. So 70% off a game is pretty wild. If you can get Star Fox Assault right now, especially if you can find it Black Label, and if you can find it complete and in really good condition, this is another one that I would go ahead and snag while it's cheap, right? So there's definitely some opportunity there. A lot of people don't think that, you can get like good deals at GameStop. I think that they're there. You just kind of have to, scout out and pick and choose where you can. The last thing that I will say is that there is a game that I would keep my eye out on, only because this is one, and I'm not trying to like inflate the price of this game. This is just one that I'm keeping my eye on, and I'm glad that I picked it up when I found it. I burnt about $25 in rewards points on this copy of Amazing Spider-Man, so it wound up costing me $5. And I've seen this game at GameStop, stores a lot, but I don't think I'd ever seen it with the slipcover, so that was the other reason why I went ahead and grabbed it. But for those of you who know, almost all of the other Spider-Man games, like Edge of Time, Shattered Dimensions, Web of Shadows, those three Spider-Man games have all soared well over $100 on the PlayStation 3. And there are still a few Spider-Man games that have not, and this is one of them. The Amazing Spider-Man is one of those games that I could see for no reason just slowly bubbling its way up to 40, 50, 60. Next thing you know, you turn around and a complete copy of The Amazing Spider-Man is $80. Right? Right now, you can still find copies of this game for like $25 to $30, and I think that's a really good deal if you can find it for that. If you can find this game, this is one that I would say pick up on the PlayStation 3, just because for some reason, the Spider-Man games, and they're good. It's not like, oh, why are these games so expensive? They're expensive for no reason. No, the Spider-Man games on the PlayStation 3 and the 360, like the three I mentioned, Edge of Time, Shattered Dimension, Web of Shadows, they're all really good games. They're good Spider-Man games. So it's not like they're bad games and they're just priced high for no reason. No, they're good games. But The Amazing Spider-Man is one that I would keep my eye on, because you can still get it for cheap, right? Or relatively cheap comparative to the ones that I just mentioned. So again, to wrap it all up, GameStop is desperately trying to keep up with the ever-changing prices on these retro games. And if you have an opportunity to pick any of these up, whether it be during a buy two, get one, a 4 under something for something, if you can burn rewards points and get them as cheap as possible, do it now. Take advantage while you can. I think it makes the most sense. That does it for me, though. I'm the Y2K Collector. Hope you guys have a great afternoon.